Hello, everyone. Yeah, I know, it's been a while, hasn't it? Sorry about these Castlevania reviews being so late, but a lot has been happening lately. But I'm making up for lost time today, because I actually have time, because for those of you that don't know, I've been doing a lot of housework lately, renovating a living room. It's just been a big project, and it has been taking a lot of time, and I apologize for that in advance. But I can only hope that for today's reviews, you still find some entertainment in them. Because today you are getting a lot of reviews. You're getting 2 of these 4-packs for this one, the Season 2 finale, where we talk about the final 4 episodes of the season. Then you're also going to get this one in the next video, where we look at the first 4 episodes of Season 3. And then you will get 2 individual episode reviews for Season 3, Episodes 5 and 6. So, by then, we will be all caught up, and then we'll be back to 1 review a day. So, without further ado, let's finish off Season 2 of Castlevania. And I gotta say, it's a pretty great season, and this is a pretty great batch of final half episodes to talk about. So, without further ado or delay, let's begin this Season 2 finale proper with Last Spell. So, before we continue forward into the actual reviews, I think I should probably make something a little clear. For one, you're probably asking why are you doing it in this format, rather than the live action. Well, because, for those of you that don't know, when I do screen recorder videos, it actually takes up less storage on my phone than the live action stuff does. Thus, I'm able to record longer videos without having to worry about storage nonsense. So that's one reason. And the other reason is because I find it a little easier to do it this way to catch up rather than trying to do it all in just one take live action. So there will be cuts in between each episode, that way I can edit this a little easier, but I promise you this is just for the episodes that we need to catch up on. After that, starting with the 2 episodes you're going to get at the end for Season 3 episodes 5 and 6, those will be back to normal live action. Unless you guys would prefer this format, please let me know in the comments which one of these you'd prefer. Because this style, I know, is a lot like the SpongeBob videos. Whereas I've been doing most of these anime videos in live action. So, yeah, just let me know in the comments which you prefer. I'm okay with either, but I'd rather you guys have a voice in it. But for these videos, these 2 packs of 4, we're doing them in screen recorder, so I can get all 4 of these episodes to fit into 1 video. Alright, with that out of the way, let's dive into Last Spell. This is probably going to be a lot quicker of a review than usual, because since I'm not on camera this time, I'm not going to be as explanatory. I'm just going to read the synopsis, then read to you the plot and everything that happens in it, give you my final thoughts, and then we're going to move on to the next one. Sound good? Alright, let's begin. So, the synopsis of Last Spell is that the Belmont Hold is discovered and Dracula's War Council goes to war with itself. Here's the plot. Starting in Castle Dracula in 1476, high atop the castle's battlements, Isaac releases Godbrand's ashes into the wind. Below, Carmilla contacts her forces through a magic mirror, informing them to assemble a Brela. A knock at her door draws her attention, revealing that a vampire who has been searching for Godbrand and has no luck. Carmilla believes that it would be impossible for Godbrand to go unnoticed in the castle. Yet, Godbrand kind of just disappears. It's a bit disappointing. After how brutal his death was, I thought there'd be more repercussion for it, but not really. Then we move on to the Belmont estate. Sypha searches through the books of the Belmont Library while Alucard praises her for her ease with books despite coming from an oral-based history tradition. Sypha starts to doubt her people's ways as she realizes that the vast amount of information in the Belmont Library simply would not have been able to be remembered by the speakers. Alucard's also worried that Sypha is now close to Trevor, who he believes to be a drunk and self-destructive, not to mention an asshole. Sypha defends Trevor, then finds a potential clue in one of the books that she's reading. It is written in a language based in Adamic. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And Sypha needs another book, written in high remembrance, to translate it fully. Then we go back to Dracula's castle. Hector meets with Isaac outside the castle to discuss the war. He is afraid that the constant bickering between Dracula and his generals hinder their plan and wants to work out an orderly strategy. Hector admits to believing that he saw vampires as a united force with a singular purpose, but that view has been diminished during the war. He convinces Isaac to support the plan to attack Brayla, assuring his fellow Forge Master that there is no betrayal at work. Isaac agrees to the plan even though he knows it would make Carmilla happy, but realizes that giving her what she wants might quiet her for a while, because she's been very mouthy. Hector reports a success in convincing Isaac to support their plans to Carmilla. He also informs her that the night creatures he forged for her are soon to reach their destination. Carmilla is pleased by Isaac's support and plans to wait a small while before going to Dracula as a united front, knowing that he would agree with the counsel of both his Forge Masters. Isaac confers to Dracula, telling him of Hector's proposal and the need to attack Brayla. Dracula wonders if Hector's still loyal, but Isaac believes he is, and that his motivation are simply to stop the infighting in the War Council. Isaac also knows that discontent is high, but does not think it would move to an actual coup against Dracula. Instead, if he gives them what they want by agreeing to attack Brayla. Dracula begins to reminisce about the time he actually cared about killing humans, such as when he was disrespected by the merchants of Kronstadt. Dracula spent days planning his revenge and slaughtered the 40 merchants who had offended him. And it does mean slaughter. Their deaths are brutal. Hector and Carmilla arrive to present their plan to Dracula. Although seemingly indifferent to the actual details, Dracula agrees to move the castle to Brayla when Isaac supports their plan. Dracula does not care about the details and simply wants all the humans to die. Leaving Dracula's presence, Carmilla reveals that she's taking control because she is surrounded by what she sees as animals, children, and weak old men. Now that Hector is implicated in her plot, the only way for him to survive is to see the plan through. In other words, he just got tricked. Bad. Then the episode concludes in the Belmont estate. Sypha discovers that one of the Belmont family was working on a locking spell to eliminate Dracula's advantage of transporting his castle through magical means. Thus why the episode is titled Last Spell. Sypha is sure that she can complete the spell and lock Dracula's castle in one place to allow them access. Above, Hector's night creatures arrive and begin trying to access the library. And that's pretty much the episode. It's slow, not a whole lot happens, but it does do a good job building up to what's going to be the big final battle against Dracula and his army, in the end of the season. So, final thoughts. It's slow but satisfying. I kind of had to keep these overall thoughts short because we have a lot to talk about still. There's still 3 more episodes to go in this review. So, with that, final verdict for this episode is going to be a 7 out of 10. It is slow, but it is satisfying, and it does a great job building up to what's about to happen, because all hell is about to break loose, to say the very least. Alright, that's it for Last Spell. It's a slow but satisfying episode that does a good job building up to what's about to happen. In other words, the big grand finale of the season. But we still have a few more episodes to go before we get to that, so let's move on to the next episode, Season 2, Episode 6, The River. Welcome back! So, we finished off Episode 5, now let's move on to Episode 6, titled The River. This is when things start going haywire, and you're going to see why in a minute. So let's not waste any more time and dive straight into our synopsis, shall we? Another city is about to fall to Dracula's castle, and Dracula himself may be about to fall at the hand of someone he thought was on his side. Now let's move on to the plot. Starts in the Belmont estate in 1476. Hector's night creatures attempt to breach the magical door to the library. Below, Trevor prepares to defend the entrance while Sypha completes the locking spell. Alucard works on the distance mirror in order to find Dracula's castle. Above, the night creatures eventually break through the magic barrier and begin their descent, aka fighting against Trevor. Then it goes to Dracula's castle. Dracula teleports his castle into the middle of Brayla, causing destruction and panic for the townsfolk. His generals prepare to lead the night creatures into the city. Then we go back to the Belmont estate again. Yeah, this episode jumps around a lot. Trevor begins to fight off the night creature force, battling a huge demon that destroys the stairwell leading up from the library. Using the Morningstar whip that he found in the archives, Trevor lands on its back and attempts to cut off its head before being thrown clear. He then uses the sword to open a wound on the creature's heel that drains its blood and kills it. It's not as cool as it sounds. The death's kind of quick. Then back to Brayla. Hector and Carmilla leave the castle with a shackled and resurrected bishop in their charge. Yeah, the bastard that we've been waiting to die, and then had the very unsatisfying off-screen death. Yeah, he's back one more time. Why they chose him, I don't know. At the main entrance, Dracula's generals lead their armies as they march out into Brayla. At the river, Carmilla instructs the bishop to bless the river and consecrate it with holy water. I can't talk today. The generals cross the bridge across the river and find that their way is blocked by another vampire force under Carmilla's command. In other words, they're from Carmilla's castle, which we're going to see in Season 3. At their commander's signal, huge chains pull the foundations of the bridge out from under Dracula's forces, dropping a large portion of his force into the blessed river. Those unlucky enough to touch the water are quickly disintegrated. The generals then retreat to the castle. In other words, Carmilla's done playing nice and is openly showing her betrayal. Then back to the Belmont estate. Trevor continues to defend the entrance against the night creatures. He uses Morningstar to kill a fire drake, and the resulting explosion destroys much of the night creature's force. Trevor then fights other demons in single combat before killing them one by one, because he's Trevor Belmont. Back to Brayla. The consecration of the river kills the reanimated bishop, because Carmilla orders the bishop to just stay in the water as he blesses it. Carmilla's forces span the river at bridges prepared for the occasion, allowing her forces to cross and attack Dracula's castle. Carmilla tells Hector to follow her, but he is initially confused until the vampire points out that he cannot return to the castle after betraying Dracula. In other words, again, he got tricked. Carmilla tells him that he has nowhere else to go and that Hector is effectively hers now, which, unfortunately, she's right. Back to the Belmont estate. Sypha finds the final component to make the locking spell work, making sure that Alucard has the castle in a distance mirror. Sypha begins the spell to bring Dracula's castle to the Belmont estate. Back to Dracula's castle. Carmilla's forces assault the castle, hammering at the door with a battering ram. Once inside, the two armies engage in fierce combat. Isaac reports on the invasion to Dracula, who recognizes the livery of the attacking soldiers to be that of Styria, and realizes that Carmilla has betrayed him. Dracula resolves not to let anyone take the castle from him. Back to the Belmont estate. Sypha's spell attempts to move the castle, but she finds that she's fighting against the castle itself. Alucard tells her about the engine that powers the castle. The last demon tries to get to Sypha and Alucard, but Trevor kills it with a single stroke of the Morningstar. Back to Dracula's castle. Dracula prepares to enter battle, but stops when he realizes that magic is afoot in the castle. Sypha's spell begins to transport the castle around Brayla, including into the river itself. The consecrated water displaces from the river and flows through town. The water kills a large portion of Carmilla's forces in the city, and she's forced to save herself and Hector from the flood. Inside the castle, the water flows through the hallways and kills soldiers from both forces. The castle finally disappears as Carmilla and Hector look on in astonishment. Recovering first, Carmilla asks, "What the fuck just happened?" Alright, one more jump back to the Belmont estate. Dracula's castle is transported to above the Belmont Library. She realizes that she has just moved a large castle onto the ground above a vast underground space probably held up by wood and dirt. Sypha suggests they head topside. Yeah, a lot happens in this episode if you can't tell. Carmilla and Hector betray Dracula, the two forces fight each other, and Trevor, Alucard, and Sypha fight against monsters in the Belmont estate. And it ends with the castle of Dracula being put right on top of the Belmont estate and locked in place. So yeah, a lot happens, it's action-packed, it's crazy, it's bloody, and it's all kinds of fucking awesome. Seriously, this is an amazing episode. So, final thoughts? Action-packed and all-around amazing. Seriously, this is definitely one of the highlight episodes of the season. And for that, final verdict is going to be a 9 out of 10. Bit of a jump from the last episode, and all around just fantastic. But it's not the penultimate episode, that's the next one. Let's move on to episode 7, For Love. Here we are again, with the next episode of Castlevania Season 2. We're almost done. We're on the penultimate episode now. And this is the big final battle against Dracula. And then after that, we just have one last episode that kind of acts like an epilogue to this one. But this is the penultimate episode where everything goes down. So, let's talk about it, shall we? So, synopsis. The battle lines are drawn, comrade against comrade, father against son, and two new lovers against the world. In other words, Trevor and Sypha did become a couple, as I was kind of hoping that they would. And they are a cute couple. So, now on to the plot, and a lot happens in this one, so buckle up. There's not a lot of jumping around, most of it does take place in Dracula's castle, but there's still a lot that happens, so brace yourselves. This is going to be a very long plot synopsis. Starts in the Belmont Estate in 1476. Trevor, Sypha, and Alucard prepare to leave the library, but the staircase is a wreck. Trevor believes that they will need ropes to ascend, but Sypha uses her magic to create a column of ice that she uses to raise them to ground level. After they step off, Sypha sends the ice column flying into the forest because she does not want to ruin the books in the library when it melts. Outside, they lay eyes on Dracula's castle and head for the entrance. In other words, the final battle for all humankind is about to begin. Dracula's castle. Dracula and Carmilla's forces continue to battle inside until they notice the arrival of Trevor, Sypha, and Alucard. Trevor gives out the battle orders. While he terrifies them, Sypha would disorient them, and Alucard heads over the top while they support him. The battle is fierce. Trevor uses the Morning Star to kill the vampires, while Sypha produces flames and ice magic. Alucard uses his sword and ability to transform into a white wolf to kill their opponents. Soon, all the vampires and Dracula's generals are dead, but the trio soon find themselves facing night creatures. Yeah, let's talk about this. I'm going to go off script for a little bit because this part is a bit of a bummer. Pretty much all of Dracula's generals, aside from Carmilla, are slasher fodder. Big disappointment. Just huge, huge disappointment. And that's a shame because many of them looked really cool, not to mention one of them, Cho, has a bit of a prevalent role in the next season, despite her being dead. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know why they're tossed away so quick, but you know what? I will give it a little bit of leeway, because they play the original Castlevania theme in the middle of the fight. And, you know, like those orchestral versions of those classic themes? Yeah, they played the Castlevania one for this battle. And it is amazing. So I'll give it a little bit of a leeway, but that is very disappointing that Dracula's generals just turned out to be slasher fodder. Huge shame. Dracula and Isaac retreat into the vampire's study, fighting off Carmilla's forces as they go. Isaac informs Dracula that the castle has been breached by Alucard and his companions, and promises to defend Dracula to his death. Marveling that Isaac would sacrifice his own mortal life for the sake of Dracula's immortal one, Dracula says his faithful servant has a soul, and perhaps that is more worthy of saving than Dracula's dusty collections of books and scientific apparatus. Please excuse my watch, it beeps every hour. Undaunted, Isaac says he chose how he lives his life and has the right to choose how he dies. Dracula replies that his only regret then is that he must take that choice away. Reassembling the shards of a magic mirror in his study with a wave of his hand, Dracula seizes Isaac and hurls him through it, teleporting him away from the castle. Isaac screams in protest and runs back to the portal, but Dracula waves farewell and closes the portal before Isaac can reach it, leaving him alone and bereft in the desert, setting up for the next season. Well, we do see him again in the next episode, but he doesn't really become prominent again until next season. So yeah, in other words, what Carmilla has been saying all along is true. This has just been a giant suicide mission for Dracula. So let's move on. Dracula turns from the mirror and faces Alucard, who tells him that the war is over. Dracula asks how his son thinks he can stop him since he couldn't do so before. Alucard rejoins that he is not alone this time, as Trevor and Sypha enter to either side of him. And the final battle begins. The trio attacks, but Dracula is more than a match for the three, shrugging off attacks but taking some injuries. Even a direct strike with the Morning Star does not kill him, although it does wound him. Bellowing that he has had enough, Dracula conjures a gigantic ball of magma and sends it rolling towards them. It takes their combined strength to turn it back, creating an explosion that drives Dracula and Alucard through the wall, leaving a burning hole that forces Trevor and Sypha to find a different route to follow and help Alucard. Dracula and his son continue to fight throughout the castle, smashing through walls and rooms as they combat each other, and they fly in the air for that notice, and there's a lot of hand-to-hand combat. It's pretty much a vampiric Dragon Ball Z fight from here on out. I know that may sound a bit deflating to some, or maybe a little insulting, but that's what it is. It is literally an mid-air, property-destroying Dragon Ball fight. And it's amazing. Where are we? Smashing through walls. Okay. Dracula shouts that his son is a fool for trying to stop him, but Alucard responds that Dracula has been dead since the day his wife was murdered, and the horrors he's wreaked since then have not been a war, but merely history's longest suicide note. Grabbing a wooden stake, Alucard lunges and stabs his father through the chest, but misses the heart, and Dracula strikes him through another wall. They smash through several chambers of the castle before they end up on one of the catwalks of Isaac's forge chambers. Alucard uses his ability to move faster than the eye can follow to land multiple blows. If you two can shut up for a second. Retreating before he can counterattack. However, Dracula eventually uses his enhanced hearing and reflexes to intercept one of Alucard's attacks, catching him by the throat and repeatedly smashing him against the catwalk. They both plummet through the floor into another passageway and yet another room. Wounded, Alucard can barely stand and his father prepares to finish him off before his vision clears because the blood moon finishes its cycle and returns to normal. And he realizes where they are. Alucard's childhood bedroom. The room still carries the colors he and Lisa lovingly painted and the toys they handcrafted for their baby boy. Seeing a portrait of himself, Lisa, and Adrian on the wall, Dracula finally grasps the depths of his own madness. He whispers that of all the gifts Lisa gave to him, the one even more precious than her love was their son, and now he's doing the utmost to destroy that gift. Realizing what he has become, Dracula admits that Adrian is right. He died when Lisa did, and all he wants is for it to be over. He lowers his hand and offers no resistance as Alucard breaks a post off his childhood bed and stabs his father in the chest with it. This time, Alucard's aim is true, and the stake goes straight through his heart and out his back. And there's a lot of blood, because of course there is. Dracula's flesh begins to melt away, and he whispers, "Son." Alucard whispers back, "Father." I was not expecting Dracula's death to be so emotional, but man, it got me. That is some amazing writing. Trevor and Sypha rush into the room just as the dying Dracula reaches out to his son one last time as if to embrace him, and Trevor decapitates him. Way to spoil the mood, asshole. Sypha finishes the task by incinerating the corpse, leaving nothing but Dracula behind except his wedding ring, and his ashes flying all through the castle. For a moment, she and Trevor are not sure how to console Alucard on the death of his father, reminding him that killing Dracula was the right thing to do. But it is all right for Alucard to mourn his passing. Sadly, Alucard says his father has been dead for a long time. Descending the castle steps, the trio exit into the bright sunlight. And that is how pretty much everything concludes for the season. You have Isaac being sent away by Dracula in act of mercy. You have Dracula having probably one of the most emotionally moving deaths I've seen in anime. And you get an incredible, amazing final war between both Carmilla and Dracula, and of course the hero trio themselves. It's an amazing episode. It delivered everything it needed to deliver. And as much as I love the finale of Season 1, this might just top it. And again, I was not expecting Dracula's death to be so emotional. Like, it got me. Like, up to that point, I was ready to just watch Dracula get slaughtered to pieces. But when that scene happened, and the way that they did it with the soft music and the amazing voice acting from Richard Armitage and James Callis as... Oh, not Richard Armitage, sorry. Wrong one. As Graham McTavish and James Callis, respectively. It's such an amazing moment. You have to see it for yourself. Yes, Trevor kind of ruins the moment by decapitating Dracula in the middle of his disintegration, but it's still pretty emotional and it hits pretty hard, and it just makes the episode that's already amazing even more amazing. So, let's move on to final thoughts. The penultimate episode that delivered on everything it was building up to, hearing an orchestral version of the original theme song from the games during the final battle was absolutely beautiful, and never thought that Dracula's ultimate demise would be so tear-jerking and emotional. 10 out of 10 episode. Easy. It delivered on everything that you want. But we're not done with the season yet, believe it or not, because this is the penultimate episode, but it's not the final episode of the season. That is End Times. So let's move on to that one and finish off this review. Well, this is it. This is the end of the second season of Castlevania. And while it's not as action-packed as the last episode was, it is a very satisfying and sort of lighthearted epilogue to the season overall, while also doing a great job setting up what's about to happen in Season 3. So, let's not waste any time, and let's finish off this review with End Times, the final episode of the second season of Castlevania. Synopsis: the dead are buried, friends and enemies are scattered, and hard choices are made. This is a pretty long final plot, so prepare yourselves. It's not nearly as long as the last one, but it's still pretty detailed, so let's finish this off with a nice big old bang, shall we? Starting off in Dracula's castle in 1476. Alucard moves through the ruins of Dracula's castle, lamenting the wreckage caused by the fight with his father. Trevor and Sypha explore the castle, marveling at the engineering that underpins the castle. They are disappointed that Sypha's spell has seemingly burnt out the engine that allows the castle to move. Alucard approaches them and tells them that he had planned to go back to his vault in Greshitz, but has changed his mind. Unwilling to allow the castle to be abandoned, Alucard intends for the castle to be his new tomb. Trevor has another suggestion. Both the castle and the library are vast repositories of knowledge and need to be protected. Trevor bequeaths Alucard the Belmont estate and tells him to make something of it, and to become more than a pile of ruins and a symbol of terror. And the nicest thing that Trevor's ever done. Now we move on to the desert. Isaac sits in an oasis in the desert drinking water when he is approached by 5 men on horseback. He tells them to keep moving, but they stop and intend to take him to the next town to sell him into slavery, unless they get hungry before then. Then Isaac kills the men one by one in brutal, gory, vicious ways. But then at night, Isaac resurrects his attackers into night creatures and begins to make his own army. And we'll find out his ultimate goal for this army in the next season. Then we go to near the Belmont estate. Sypha and Trevor walk through the forest, he asking Sypha whether she will rejoin the Speaker's caravan. She says yes, at least for a time, to recount the story of their victory over Dracula. But in a rush of excitement, she says she does not want to stay with them and resume her old life. Since the two of them met, she has performed some extraordinary feats of magic, if she does say so herself, seen the wonders of the Belmont family library, and helped to defeat an army of vampires. She wants to continue, reminding Trevor that their job is not done, since they know that Dracula's army is not totally defeated and some are still at Brayla. She then argues that continuing on their current course would be good for Trevor, since he has gone from being a scurry drunken wreck to almost a grown-up man in their short time together. She believes that fighting evil is what he was born to do, and that he has finally found himself. Trevor slumps onto the ground and asks her if she is seriously saying that fighting monsters and putting himself in horrible danger is good for him. Sitting beside him, she responds that what she is really saying is that she wants him to be with her, wherever she goes or whatever she does. She holds out her hand, and after a moment he takes it, admitting that he can't imagine another future for himself or anyone else he could have that future with. He asks where they're heading next. Sypha says Brayla should be their next stop, but admiring the magnificent sunset lighting up the autumn trees in the valley, she lays her head on his shoulder and suggests they stay right where they are for a little while. The scene that you see on your screen. And it really is beautiful. Sure, you don't get to see like Dracula's castle crumble like you do at the end of the games, no, but you still get some absolutely beautiful imagery, and the confirmation of these two being lovers, which I'm fine with. I think they were a cute couple and work well off each other. Then we move on to Brela. In the ruins of Brela, Carmilla and Hector hide from the sunlight and the townspeople. Carmilla announces her intention to return to Styria and reveals that Dracula is dead. Hector is bothered by the news and Carmilla's soldiers chain him up. Carmilla intends to take advantage of the power vacuum and needs Hector to raise an army of night creatures to serve her. With Hector in tow, and beating the absolute shit out of him, Carmilla leads her forces out of Brela, forcing Hector to walk the entire way there. Next is the Belmont estate. Trevor and Sypha load a wagon with supplies for their journey and they bid farewell to Alucard. They ride through the forest on their way to a new adventure. And finally, we finish off at Dracula's castle. Entering the main hall of the castle, Alucard remembers his father while feeling that the castle is too empty. He wonders aloud if that is how his father felt before his mother came into his life. Reaching his father's study, he sits in the chair, enjoying shafts of sunlight coming in through the windows. He then remembers himself as a boy, playing in the castle before his mother laughingly scooped him up. The memories overwhelm Alucard and he finally breaks down. Bowing over in his father's chair, Adrian Tepesh cries, his tears flowing silently but freely. He weeps for his mother, snatched away by other men's cruelty and short-sighted avarice. For his father, in so many ways a great man, transformed by that cruelty and avarice into a monster. And for the laughing little boy he once was, growing up to become the instrument of his own father's destruction. It's a somber and quiet end to the entire season, but honestly, I don't think they could have ended it any better. So, that's it for Season 2 of Castlevania. Let's finish off with final thoughts, final verdict, and then I'll tell you about my thoughts on this season overall. A really nice epilogue that delivers a satisfying conclusion while doing a fantastic job teasing what's still to come in the next season. And for that, the final verdict for this episode, despite being slow and not having much action outside of Carmilla beating the shit out of Hector and Isaac murdering the people that tried to sell him to slavery, outside of that, there's not really any action. So, because of that, I still think that this final episode deserves a final verdict of an 8 out of 10. It's still a great episode. It's just slow. But at the same time, it's poetic that it has such a quiet and somber ending. Alright, now for my thoughts on the season overall. While it does have its bumps in the road, and it's ultimately a little disappointing seeing that Dracula's generals were mostly just useless fodder, it's still a fantastic watch that perfectly built upon the foundation of Season 1. And with the new additions like Hector, Carmilla, and Isaac were just the icing on the top. Longer than Season 1 with twice the amount of episodes, but the story was more ambitious and utilized its extended length very well. It may not be as rewatchable as Season 1, because Season 1's only 4 episodes, that's like an easy 2.5 hour sit, but it's still an all-around superior season in every other aspect. Like, with Season 1, it had a slow start with its first 2 episodes, and then an amazing finish with the final 2, which made it even out to about an 8 out of 10. Season 2, double the length, bigger the story, and an even crazier conclusion. But this one was also a lot more consistent, and while there were some slow episodes in the season, it still felt like it was moving things along very well. And the finale is so satisfying, while leaving, again, the door open for another season to build upon that. So because of that, I think that the final overall verdict for Season 2 of Netflix's Castlevania is a 9 out of 10. It is a fantastic anime. I am having a phenomenal time watching it, and I'm excited to see where it continues to go in Season 3. Okay, that was a mouthful, but thank you guys so much for watching this video. I know it was a lot longer than usual, but like I said, a lot of catching up to do due to life stuff. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more videos like this almost every single day. Stay tuned because you have more episode reviews coming your way very soon, as well as the reviews of Smile 1 and 2. So, you're getting plenty of content today, and I hope you guys enjoy it all. So, thank you guys for watching. Hope you're having an amazing spooky season, and I'll see you in the next review.